And welcome everybody to the Ladies Professional Racquetball Tour. My name is Tim Baggers, joined by Commissioner TJ Bombaugh and a special guest this evening, Rhonda Rajsich. Rhonda, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate you coming out. I'm going to turn over the questions to TJ to start, but if you're watching, be sure to ask questions as well, and we'll get them to Rhonda.
Rhonda.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Wait, I want to ask the first question.
All right, go for it.
How's everybody enjoying quarantine life?
The demonic laughter should tell you something.
That's not totally fair. You and I talked about that on the phone today. We did. The best of it, right? Making the best of it.
Absolutely.
Staying positive. Yeah.
Enjoying, finding and being able to enjoy the silver linings in such a horrible time. I mean, it is heartbreaking with so much suffering that's causing so much pain, but there are several silver linings to be found. So I think the key to surviving that aspect of it is trying to make the most of those. So much pain, but.
You know, Rhonda, you kind of led me into my first question. It was going to be a different one, but we talked about this kind of, as you called it, the zombie apocalypse right now, and how you actually kind of appreciate right now the time slowing down and you having more opportunities to do stuff. Like what? What are you doing?
Well, I had a very long conversation not too long ago with another athlete, and during that conversation I realized that this has actually created the very first off season I've ever had in my life, because between pro tour, US team, outdoor camps, I've never had more than 2 weeks ish between coming home and packing up and leaving again. So this is actually this is completely new. Like, wow, I get to train differently now. I get to do things now that I couldn't before, because I just didn't have time to squeeze those kind of things in between, in between events, in between, having somewhere to be specifically for racquetball. So I'm loving this. Is actually my very first off season, and I hate why I have one, but I'm definitely making the most of it in a lot of ways.
So what are you actually doing or not doing? And, how is it helping you, given the fact you get to give your body some rest?
Well, that's just it. I can actually train harder, because it's not like I'm trying to cram a certain kind of workout into the 3 days between what would have been the end of Bolivia and the start of San Antonio, coming next week. I'm not trying to cram in, hurry up and recover from Bolivia, hurry up and get ready for San Antonio, plus all the unpacking, laundry, and repacking, So it's allowed me to be able to train differently, because my timeline of being able to get the most out of my workouts, depending on when I have to leave to go play again, is completely different right now than it's ever been for me before. So I can actually dive into, different realms of training. I can push my body harder. I can recover harder. I can rehab my knee harder. I actually have the time to, give my body that attention that it needs in all areas to, like I said, really just making the most of this time to do things that I can't do when I'm only home for a few days.
Mm-hmm.
Rhonda, this is, correct me if I'm wrong, is this the 22nd season for you on the pro tour? Is it 22?
I don't think it's that high. I think this might be the end of 20. I'm not sure.
So I got some statistics here. Boss,
oh, good. I'm glad somebody knows, because I don't.
Thanks. First season was 1998, 1999.
Oh, well, there you go then.
And you finished. It's interesting, amazing statistic. You finished that year ranked 44th. And then you've been in the top 6 ever since.
I think I only played one tournament that year, because I know that I think it was was a decision. There was a decision that my dad and I had to make with basketball and racquetball, and we discussed it. I remember specifically going to a meeting. I want to say that it was at National Doubles in like back when October held National Doubles. If that doesn't date me, I don't know what does. But I think that was it. It could have been a different national event, but I do remember Jim Heiser having a meeting with all the ladies that were at that tournament. And I remember he said, ladies racquetball isn't dying, it's dead. We need to do something about that. And that was when the original LPRA came to inception, was shortly thereafter. And I was still playing basketball on a full ride basketball scholarship at that time. And my dad and I talked about it. And once the LPRA got rolling, it was one of those kind of defining moments. And we just sort of decided, we're like, well, why don't I try racquetball for a year, see how it goes. If I don't like it, I'll go back to basketball. And that was pretty much the plan. And it was just to give the new women's tour a try and see how things went. And well, obviously here I am. I haven't gone back to basketball yet. It doesn't mean I won't. Still very much in love with that idea. But yeah, that was my first full year was when, and that was the year, I think that must've been, was that 2000 or 2001? Because that was the year that I made my first US Open final. And I think I lost to Christy in the final. And just basically based on that US Open, I know my dad and I discussed it, and I'm like, yeah, I could do this for a while.
Yeah, in 2000, 2001, you had the one title and 3 semis, 1 final.
The first title was Rosarito Beach, right?
I can't tell you that. I mean, I could, but I don't have it right in front of me.
I think it was Rosarito. I think that was my first actual pro stop.
So if everybody's watching, I know a lot of you are because I'm seeing all the comments coming through. Rhonda, you're getting a lot of love. You can go back and watch. But if you have questions, we want to ask Rhonda all kinds of questions tonight, get to know Rhonda a little bit and as well. And one of the things that you talked about was basketball. And you've actually done a little bit of coaching in basketball as well. Talk to us a little bit about that.
All right, well, let's get the elephant out of the room. I mean, most people right now are probably tuning in because what I posted on Instagram last week sometime.
Keep them suspended. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Well, I would have, but you had to ask that question. So the big announcement, no, I'm not retiring. Tried to clarify that recently, and then the latest Instagram post. But you know, I don't do anything but racquetball. I don't have a side gig. This is what I dedicate myself to full time, and clearly there's no tournaments. So what I have done is my agent and I have brainstormed extensively on how we could do this, and we were kind of putting some pieces together for me to do these things in person, and then coronavirus happened, and so now we're trying to basically take all those same ideas and do as much of it as possible virtually. So what I am doing, what my announcement is that I am going into virtual training specifically for basketball skills and also for speed, strength, and conditioning for any sport. And the reason why that's, you know, the big announcement is because, you know, as a racquetball player, you would expect me that I would be jumping into that racquetball coaching boat. And it's not that I don't want to, not that I don't desire to give that back, but you know, I'm also trying to be very respectful of my coach and of the other coaches, that this is how they make their living full time, and they're sidelined off the courts too. So while I wouldn't say no to somebody who came directly at me, I am certainly not going to advertise racquetball coaching at this juncture. But I am specifically going into coaching basketball. In fact, I literally hung up off of a Zoom call with a high school basketball team here in the Valley and just put them through a 45-minute workout in our living rooms right before I joined you fine folks. And before that, I actually had a very long training conversation, kind of brainstorming session with a Bosnian soccer player. So it's, even though I haven't officially announced it until just now, it's kind of already getting out there a little bit. And like I said, it's basketball skills specific, but the speed, strength, and conditioning is going to be for all sports. So, and if any of you have kids and your kids are on teams that can't practice right now, or, you know, they can't get to their respective fields or courts or, you know, rinks to practice on, I do have some training modalities that can serve many different sports. And part of that is because I have taken my training to different levels by taking things from other sports. I've taken things from basketball, obviously, taken things from football. I've taken things from hockey. I've taken things from MMA. Taken things from, several different sports that have baseball, several different sports that have things to offer somewhere in their skill set that can somehow transform into developing parts of your racquetball skill set. So that's what the big announcement is. I'm offering virtual training, and I actually have a couple of one-pagers to put out to you guys that are going to be in conjunction with this. And TJ, if you check your inbox, I sent you a little sneak peek.
Got it.
But yeah, that's the big announcement. Is I'm offering some knowledge that I've gained over how many years did you say? Never mind, don't answer that.
All right,
over some experience.
That's exciting, and of course it's exciting as well that you kind of cross over sports and that you're able to see how maybe not specializing in a sport can benefit you as well. And so excited to see, kind of a new part of this journey. We're starting to get some questions in, and we'll start with a fun one because it's Karen Grizz, and she said,
"Oh my,
talk about your rap abilities."
I can't. I don't have a DJ right now to drop that beat, so use your imagination.
And then next up, a good one from Tyler Peterson, and he says, "I have an 11-year-old daughter who plays on and off with me. What was it that made you fall in love with racquetball?"
I don't know. I think it may have been something I was born with. For those who don't know, which means you've never seen, heard, or read any interview I've ever given, my parents joined a health club when I was 2. My mother was playing tennis. My father was just learning to play racquetball with my godfather, who actually delivered me when I was born. And they stuck me in the nursery because I'm 2 and, they're trying to do their thing. Well, I figured out how to sneak out, and I never knew where to look for my mom. But my dad, I would kind of wander around and find which racquetball court he was on. And when I found him, I just kind of make note like, oh, okay, there's daddy. And then I would go down to the basketball court and grab a basketball, which was, this big to me at that time. And I would have, do whatever I could as a 2-year-old with a basketball, but I'd be watching. And so whenever my dad came off the court and was in between games, I'd run up and I'd steal his racket and run on the racquetball court because I wanted to do what daddy was doing. So that's essentially how I got started. And then, hey kid, give the big people the racket back. What are you doing? Where's your mother? For the longest time, I don't think either one of my parents knew that I was sneaking out. I think my dad probably assumed that my mom took me out of the nursery, and my mom probably assumed that my dad did. But the laws and all the paperwork you have to sign up with at the gym back in those days was a little different. So it's not like I got shunned from the club for life or anything. But yeah, that was basically how I got my start. Was that my dad was doing it, so I wanted to do it. And then as I got older, I enjoyed it more. Plus, as an only child, racquetball was a sport that I could do by myself. That kind of became my dad's babysitter for me. When my parents got divorced and my dad and I would go to the club, he could do his thing and put me on the court, and I would entertain myself for hours. And I was fine, he was fine, the club was fine, and it just led to me having all these endless hours getting to play something I enjoyed, and I didn't have to have somebody to do it because I'm nothing against being an only child. I'm actually grateful because of a lot of the things that I have learned and a lot of strengths that I have had to develop as an only child that I don't think you have those opportunities as much when you have siblings. Not that siblings are bad, because I always wanted one, just never got one. But I will say the hardest thing about being an only child is not being able to play catch. I mean, I tried, play quarterback and receiver as best I could, but kind of gets stale after a while. It's harder to run plays that way.
Sadzi Munchik is watching on and says, you could have went and played in the WNBA. What made you choose racquetball?
First of all, I still want to play in the WNBA. Now that they've suspended their season, and now I got to, wait for them to come around too. But I think what happened was it really was making the finals of that first US Open in my first full season. Just because, racquetball was always the thing I did on the side. Basketball was always you know, I had to follow the scheduling and the evolution of my back through, you know, the way that it was set up through the school. You know, I didn't pick the season. I didn't pick which games I played in and which ones I didn't go to, like racquetball. But, you know, so basketball was always kind of, I always did racquetball around basketball. And then once the LPRA started up and the women's game was being reborn, as it were, I decided I'd give it a shot. And I like, let me see what I can do with this if I actually dedicated 100% of myself to racquetball instead of just doing it on the side because I like it. And then to be able to have that early success at that first US Open, and, you know, everything else that I learned in that first season, and actually dedicating, you know, my training and my practice, and, you know, my giving that my full attention for that amount of time. Like I said, my dad and I had the conversation at the end of that first season. I'm like, yeah, I dig it. I can do this for a while. Obviously, I'm still enjoying it enough to still want to do it.
Well, we have a little clip. Hopefully this works. If it doesn't, apologies of Rhonda playing. So let's.
Wow, she got that? Look
Looks
at this
good from this angle.
defense. Vargas, she got it. Oh my goodness, what a rally. Oh my goodness, the crowd.
And, you know, of course I knew you were going to get that ball. I mean, obviously.
Yeah, you sounded so sure of that, didn't you?
Let's go back to the questions. We have one from Bolivia, Felipe Mercado. Rhonda, can you tell us what memories come to you from Cochabamba, Bolivia, relating to a swimming pool back in 2001?
I remember it was nighttime. That's what I remember.
I think we'll move on. Elena Lynn, I hope I got your name pronounced right. Rhonda, have you ever tried tennis?
Technically, no. I don't know if anyone from Ektalan or Prince is watching, but a few years ago, when Ektalan was still with Prince, a lot of years ago, I remember Scott Winters called me and asked if I would mind doing a photo shoot and would I mind, you know, hitting some forehands and backhands. And it never occurred to me through that entire discussion for a couple of weeks until I was actually on an airplane to New York and talking to someone else who was actually in charge of the shoot, not Scott. Scott was kind of just the contact point of connecting us from then on out. And not until I was actually on the plane to New York did I realize that they were asking me to do a tennis shoot for Prince clothing. And I had no idea what I was doing. I was asking the other two tennis pros to give me like a quick mechanical, all right, they told me I'm going to do serves. How do I do this? Like, just give me the, you know, where do I put my feet? How do I stand? How do I hold the racket? And all I said was, I'm only going to try to mimic what I've seen on TV. And the girl goes, yeah, that's pretty much it. You just throw it up and hit it. I'm like, okay, that was worst tennis lesson ever. And so have I ever actually tried tennis? No. Did I attempt to pretend to be a tennis player for a photo shoot? Yes. I don't know if I did well. I don't know if I sold it or not, but I didn't get fired. So I'm going to assume I did okay.
And JP Edwards has a question for you. JP, by the way, appreciate you getting these highlight videos for us this evening. Says, after being so successful for so many years, what are the main things that motivate you to continue competing at such a high level?
I'm still finding things that I can improve on, and I haven't done everything that I wanted to do yet. And I don't mean in the way of awards or titles or accolades or anything like that. I just mean that I know that as a player, I still have room to improve. And to quote Michael Jordan, the day I stop improving is the day I walk away from the game. So I just don't feel like I've reached that ceiling yet. I get excited about practice. I get excited about things that you know that I recognize that I can improve upon. And that keeps me hungry because I know I'm not done yet because I haven't hit that point where I've got nothing left to get better at.
So if I can kind of press you a little bit. You got injured, and I remember seeing you in Bolivia last year. Obviously very hurt. Are you 100% healthy now? Is this assuming we can go into the next tournament soon? Are you 100% healthy and able to really go for it this season?
I would say that I can't give you a percentage only because I can't hit a ball. I don't have anywhere to hit a racquetball, and to be honest, it's the twisting that sets me back more than anything else. But as far as my knee-hab, that's going great. As far as being able to take stairs without buckling, without pain, without shifting my weight to avoid something, I don't even think about how I go up the stairs anymore. Even when I could sprint upstairs 2 and 3 at a time right now and have no pain whatsoever, no popping.
Okay.
It feels really good. It's felt really good for a long time. But like I said, it's the twisting on that joint that I can't replicate right now. So stay tuned. I don't know. I'll let you know as soon as I find some place to hit a ball.
New Team USA coach is watching on from YouTube and says, who would win in a 3-point contest between you and Curry?
I would. I would for only one reason. He would underestimate me. Plus, I'm gonna throw this in. Plus, Steve Kerr, the head coach of the Golden State Warriors, is probably the second best shooter besides Curry that I've ever seen. And when I was 10 years old, Steve Kerr was drafted out of University of Arizona by the Phoenix Suns, and he was at the gym. And at 10 years old, I walked up and I challenged him to a 3-point contest. He made 8 out of 10. I made 7 out of 10. So I was only one shot shy of Steve Kerr at age 10. So that's the only reason I'm being a little arrogant about it.
I was going to have to tell you a little story about Rhonda. If you've ever been to an LPRT event, me as the commissioner, when Rhonda's court is open and I have to go find Rhonda, if there is a basketball court anywhere in the club, that's the first place I go, and she's there.
That's the only time you would have to go find me. If I'm not right there ready for my court, it's only because there's a basketball in my hand while I'm waiting for my court. Yeah, that's a true story.
The Carson family are watching on, and Jennifer says, Rocky and I want to know what your favorite tournament was for the U.S. team and why.
Ireland for 2 reasons. 1, Team USA swept, and 2, I was not supposed to be there. I had to claw my way into that trip.
Next question. There's a lot of questions, so I'm trying to get through them. What do you think about pickleball?
I don't know. I've never played it. I was actually invited to play it this morning. Couldn't make it, but I've never actually played it. But I will be honest. I don't have anything against it because, like I said, I've never played it. I've never experienced it, so I can't talk about something I'm unfamiliar with. But I'm not in a big hurry for it. I think simply because I'm a purist and I'm so not hurt, but like so much of the racquetball population has quit racquetball for pickleball, and that makes me a little sad. I mean, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with pickleball, and not at all. Like I said, I can't be hating on something I don't know. It's like being mad at somebody you've never met. But at the same time, I think my love for racquetball kind of overwhelms my desire to go check it out. At least not yet. I mean, I'm sure I'd love to at some point. It sounds fun, but I'm just at a point right now where I like where I'm at, and I'll get to that eventually.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's follow that up then with Marquise, and he says, Ronnie, what do you believe is something that the professional tours could do as a whole to extend the knowledge of racquetball to others who either don't know the sport or have an interest in the sport?
Oh, that is such a loaded question because there's so many things, and I know that unfortunately the very sad reality is the number one thing that I think holds this sport back is money. I mean, money for marketing, money for broadcasting, money for promoting. But then that also leads into accessibility. I mean, as professionals right now, none of us, okay, that's a lie. One of us has a racquetball court at their house. And that's the only person I know of that's probably allowed to play right now. I mean, even trying to go to a park or even find a building with a blank wall that won't, arrest you for vandalism or trespassing right now. just trying to find a flat surface to hit a ball. It's hard right now. And imagine even when all the clubs open up. I mean, it would be really nice if every single club in America had a waiting list for court times, but we just don't. Unfortunately, over the last 20 years, I've watched private clubs close down. I've watched cookie cutter clubs go up, and I've watched the number of courts being taken out of those clubs go up, and I've watched the number of courts being put in to the clubs that are being built go down. So part of it is accessibility. Part of it is a lack of a nationwide grassroots effort, and but a big part of having a need to stimulate all of that interest comes down to the money of basically getting non-racquetball people to pay attention to racquetball for some other reason than somebody that they know plays it.
Yeah. So have you seen, this is Michael, I said it, what's the biggest difference between today's pros and the pros when you started, assuming there is a difference?
I think today's pros are a lot faster. I think the game as a whole is a lot more aggressive, and I just think that the bar has been raised in every way. And it's been like you have to be in better shape now. You have to have better mechanics now to hit the ball harder. You have to be able to endure longer matches. You have to be able to endure different travel, things that wear on you for the travel. You have to endure a longer schedule. I think that back in my day, I think that those players that I looked up to as a kid, I think that they definitely set the bar. And I think that they are the reasons why it's been able to go up as high as it has now. But at the same time, I just think that the game as a whole has evolved into just a much more furious display of athleticism.
Yeah. TJ, I know you obviously played the Pro Tour. Is that something you've also seen as well?
I would agree with that too. Yeah, a fitter, faster, stronger, definitely more aggressive play now, I think, than as opposed to, I guess, more textbook. Early when I started playing, I didn't play nearly as long as Rhonda did, but definitely faster. I did get to play Rhonda a couple times.
Dude, I think you played me once, and I kept, I was starting to get offended every time you were going to run into me in the draw. You avoided me.
I was going to stop you before you said that, but yeah, more than once. I think we played twice.
I know we played once. We might have played twice.
I had a lot of fun. Very athletic. Yeah. It was fun.
Next question is from Jessica, and she says, "What do you want your legacy to be?"
Oh goodness, I have a lot more to do before I can even think about the L word.
All right.
I don't know. I guess I see it as, like, my windshield is so much bigger than my rearview mirror. I'm not going to pretend that I haven't done a lot. I've been around long enough to do a lot, but I honestly, I would have to look stuff up. Like, I know I did it, but I'd have to look stuff up to remember exactly how much is actually out there. But at the same time, like I said, I'm still hungry. I'm still striving. There's still things that I want to do. So I'm looking forward. I don't think I'll be able to even look at the word legacy until I get to those twilight years where I'm not looking forward anymore. But right now I still am. So
we have another video, so let's take a quick look.
Between the legs. A little showwomanship by Rhonda. Great get.
Great get. So, like I was saying, forcing them to shoot deep.
And the save by Rhonda. Keep playing. Oh, and another great get. Oh.
We've got an appeal for a hinder. We've got a bad and a good. The left line.
So that was back when you had the heavy brace, right? Severe movement issues. Are we going to see you playing without a brace again?
That's my hope. Like I said, this is the first time I've had an off season in my life. So my goal is to be able to to shed the brace, to have all the strength and stability back in both legs that I've been missing for about 3 years. And yeah, that's definitely been a goal. And now, like I said, this is the silver lining. One of the silver linings for me is I actually have the time and space to do that, to work on exactly that.
Well, we have a question, and I suspect it's from Jay. It's going to say LPRT. Please don't answer it because we want to end tonight. What's the best movie of all time, and why is it Jaws?
Absolutely, it is the best movie ever made in the history of cinema. And here's why. Obviously, you know this why already, or you wouldn't have asked. But it's such a good movie because everything went wrong. Like, everything went wrong when they were trying to make that movie. The studio fired Steven Spielberg every single day because they went over budget, they went over time, they went over, the shark never worked. They were literally rewriting the script like every single night before shooting. I mean, every single thing that could have possibly gone wrong with that movie went wrong. And because it was never made without a single speed bump or hiccup, it would have been a B movie at best if it went off the way that it was supposed to. But because they were literally having to constantly change and adapt and fix and change something because something wasn't working, it's because they had to almost completely redo whatever they planned to do. They had to completely redo that plan every single day. And it just became, such an iconic film. It was also the first movie ever to gross over $100 million. And it's still timeless. I mean, it doesn't matter if you've ever even seen the movie. If you have any idea what those two bars of music mean, dun dun, you start looking at the water twice. It's left a lasting impression on generations after its release. So, I mean, it came out before I was born, but it's so good because everything went wrong and they made it work anyway. And it's an amazing piece of film.
That was a pretty succinct answer, I gotta say, because I've heard a longer one, that's for sure. So well done, well done. Jordan Walters, Rhonda, what's your all-time favorite racquetball tournament memory?
God, that's too hard. You know how many tournaments I have to go through in my mind to think about all those to find one? I'm going to take a rain check on that one. Not because I don't want to answer it. It's just I don't want to leave something out that I should have thought of. So don't put me on the spot with something that I got to go through that long of a Rolodex to come up with the answer.
So Kevin says, do you think we should have a mixed pro doubles in the U.S. Open? If so, who would your partner be?
Ooh. See, I don't know. That's a tough call because obviously the competitive part of me wants to say, hell yeah. But I also know that with singles and doubles in our respective tours and knowing how limited we are on show court space, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I don't know. Plus it is the biggest pro tournament of the year, basically. And so I don't know how many people you would get to, not that they wouldn't want to, but to have another division of that magnitude that would be totally fun and awesome at that tournament though. I don't know who would be willing to maybe, putting the energy into that instead of, trying to get go further in the draw in either of the others, just because of the magnitude of the event itself. I mean, we're all playing for 5 days there already. So I'm just not sure that a third division at that event would go off as well as it could at some other places. That said, I think it would be a blast. I think if there was a way to accommodate that, where you could have the players that could play 3 divisions, not have too many time conflicts and not have, such limited recovery time, or not have to, vie for show court time. If you could figure out the solution to all of those for that event, I would love to do it. I think it would be awesome. I think that when we have done a mixed doubles at a pro stop, where the LPRT and the IRT were in the same venue, I think it's an awesome sight to see. It's an awesome thing to play.
Next question, I think might be for TJ, and it's from somebody we know well, Randy Root, and he said, "Are you guys coming in June?"
Oh, Randy,
Not to put you on the spot.
We're supposed to make that decision this week, next week. We're about 9 weeks out right now. Next week will have to be the no or go decision, and I've been watching the news just like everybody else. So we're gonna decide. We're gonna have to decide very soon. Of course, all the players want to come. I want to go. It will depend on what's going on with the virus and the lockdowns and quarantines and all like that. So we're keeping an eye on everything. Hopefully, if for some reason we can't come in June, we're gonna find another date. Definitely this season. So.
Yeah, well, I'm not putting you on the spot, Randy, so blame Randy. But yeah, Randy.
Thanks for taking that one, TJ. I didn't want to answer that one.
We all want to go. I mean, that's the biggest event of all time for the women's tour. That's a big one. That's the first and only Supermax Slam, and we're looking forward to it. Absolutely, whenever it will be. Yes.
And he just said, worst case, we can postpone as needed, and we hope we don't have to. But I think I speak for all of us. We want to come. We're excited. The last 2 years have been amazing. So looking forward to it. So I want to move on, Rhonda. Another question, Mercy, and I want to twist it a little bit because it says, did you have any obstacles throughout your professional career? I'm assuming yes. And how did you overcome it? So can you provide some obstacles that you've experienced that have been tough for you? And how you overcame them?
Getting my face rearranged was stands out.
You're gonna have to explain this one because a lot of people who aren't familiar won't know this story.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the Cliff's Notes PG version of what happened. I was living in Herbosa Beach at the time. I was walking on the Strand, which is kind of that rollerblade bike stroll area in between the homes and the actual sand. And I got jumped from behind by two guys with brass knuckles who shattered the right side of my face. My eyeball almost fell out. My life was threatened. Long story short, I ended up in the hospital with severe facial fractures. I had to have facial reconstructive surgery. They had to rebuild my eye socket, my cheekbone, part of my jaw. I had 6 cracked teeth. To this day, my pain level is at a 10 every single day. I found out 2 years later, another doctor was looking at the medical report because I was having such excruciating pain. And that's when I found out that my eyeball could have fallen out. Thank goodness it didn't. But my nerves are shredded. So there's nothing I can do about that. It's if you Google trigeminal neuralgia, that is the symptoms that I have. That is not the disease that I have, but the symptoms are identical. Mine is not a disease. It is, it's a result of physical damage, but the symptoms are identical to that disease, which is also known as a suicide disease because it's so painful. People tend to kill themselves instead of living with the pain. That's my everyday. I am not suicidal because to me, my facial pain is my daily reminder of how blessed I am to still be here. And that's what I alluded to when I was asked, I believe it was by the Carson family, what my favorite tournament was and why. And it's because Worlds was in Ireland that year. And this happened 6 weeks before we were supposed to leave. So I wasn't even supposed to go. They were going to send an alternate on that trip. And I had to fight my way onto that team to keep my spot. And it was very emotional, obviously. I was still 37 pounds underweight. I was not able to eat solid food for about 4 months. So it was a big deal just to even be there, let alone to even, dream of going as far as I did. And it's like I said, it's my daily, the daily pain that I feel is my daily reminder of how many blessings I have to count, specifically that I gained or became aware of through that episode of my life of getting attacked. And I was never a victim. I was never off my feet. I was never unconscious. And I actually had the presence of mind as I was being hit 10 to 12 times with brass knuckles in my face from behind. I was blitzed. I didn't see it coming. I actually had the presence of mind once I turned around and squared up. I had the presence of mind not to hit back because I knew that I had Worlds in 6 weeks. And I didn't want to break my hand on somebody's dumb face in a situation like that would prevent me from going to Worlds. And my argument, the way that I convinced USA Racquetball to let me go was I convinced them that I don't need my face to hit the ball. I still have my arms, I still have my legs, I can still swing and move. So thankfully that that won the crowd, if you will, and I was able to go, and it was a very very moving thing for me to be able to be there with my teammates and to be a part of Team USA sweeping that event.
Yeah, quite a story, and amazing that you were able to go and not only just go, as you said, but be successful. And I think that's a testament to the fact that you kind of overcome a lot of adversity each season. There's something different, and yet here you are, something seasons later, and you're still in the top 6. So let's move on. Sean Walter, before I get in trouble. Hey, Rhonda, is there a particular player on the LPRT or style that challenges you the most?
Yeah, there's a few. A lot of the girls now are, they have such different styles mechanically. Natalia, I'm going to call you right out because your forehand just hurts my shoulder every time I look at it. But you do things with the ball that blow my mind, how you can hit them the way that you do and put them where you do, and especially get that kind of power on it. And so, just I think mechanically, a lot of the styles have kind of changed and evolved quite a bit. And also, just the shot selection. Sometimes players are able to hit shots that it doesn't look like they should be able to hit with the position they're in physically or geographically on the court. And they pull an angle that you kind of look back and you got to clap and say, wow, how'd you do that? So I can't say that there's one specific style, Natalia, but there's definitely a mixture of tons of talent but just you're seeing something being done in a way that you've never seen it be done like that before. So it's harder to kind of predict or read where it's going.
Are there any specific players that you kind of just relish the opportunity to play them as kind of a test of your skills?
Yeah, and they know who they are.
We might too. Don't say anything. JP moves on, and we move on, and he said, if you could play doubles with any famous person, not necessarily player, but person, who would it be?
Ooh. Well, I'm just going to say Jordan because because then I'd make him take me on the basketball court as soon as if I drag him on a racquetball court, I'd get to go play basketball with him too. So yeah, that's 2 dreams in one come true. I'll just pick that.
Well, I think that's all the questions we have on here. So let me ask one, and maybe TJ, you can ask one as well. And looking at the fact, and we haven't really talked a lot about your record other than the fact you've been in the top 6 for many seasons. Are there any particular lows that you've gone through other than what you've described here? And kind of how do you climb out of those lows to get back up top? Because, I was talking with somebody today about how we can read books, and the books are usually written by people who've been extremely successful, and here's the secrets to success and all that. But they don't talk very much about the kind of the struggles where they weren't as successful. How do you kind of find a way to grind through on the days where things aren't going the way they're supposed to go?
I've been having those days for the last 3 years with the knee injuries. The background on that, at the Pan Am Championships in Costa Rica in 2017, that was very hard on me for 100 different reasons, most of which that was the first international tournament I played in since my father passed away. And it was obviously hugely emotional, again, just to be there and then to have to play under those circumstances. I mean, I was literally crying in my Cheerios every day. But I actually tore my meniscus and MCL in my right leg at that tournament in my second round of pool play, and kind of just limped through subsequent tournaments for almost a year. And then it kind of started to feel better. And then I kind of messed it up again pretty bad at the San Antonio stop about a year later. And the right knee was never quite the same. Then in November of 2018, I did severe damage, tore both meniscus and MCL in my left knee, and that's the one I'm still kind of limping through. That's the one that I've been me having this whole time. And so I would say that these last 3 years have been significantly, consistently low for me in that regard, because I've almost had to reteach myself how to play while I'm compensating for these injuries. But now that they're starting to feel better, which is awesome, now I've almost got to retrain myself to play how I was playing before I got hurt. It's footwork thing. It's a timing thing. It's a being able to trust my body thing. And so climbing out of that low is taking those steps. And first of all, I've got to get the strength and stability back in that joint. Okay, now I've got to get the speed and the strength and the explosiveness back in that leg. And now I got to make those two legs even. Now I got to make those two legs work together again when they weren't able to work together for the last 3 years because of one or the other. So it's a lot of different puzzle pieces to put together, but thankfully I've been doing this long enough and know what I want to do it, how I want to do it, and what it's supposed to feel like when I do it right. And that's, again, such a silver lining to have this time to be able to do that in an environment where I'm not rushing between tournaments trying to put a Band-Aid on what I hurt last weekend and try to get it ready and stronger for this next weekend.
I gotta put this in here because Samantha's been watching, and she says, Rhonda, you're a warrior and a great example of resilience. I admire you since I was a junior player. Now that we're competing at the same level, it's not a question.
Samantha, I love you and thank you. And Warrior knows Warrior, and I love the way you play. I love your heart. I love your dedication, and I love watching you play. And the only gripe I have about playing against you is that I can't cheer for you when I play against you.
Yeah, you guys had a big battle the last time you two played on tour, and don't forget to. We
always do, though.
Yeah.
We always do. That's one of the people that I love to play, because I know that she's always going to bring it. I'm always going to bring it. That matches with Samantha turn out to be, it's a slugfest. It's a street fight. It's no holds barred. Like you're literally getting the best that we both have that day. And she's a joy to play and a joy to watch. And I love the battle worn feeling that we both have when we get done, no matter what the outcome.
TJ, did you have a question?
Yes, but first of all, I'll say to Samantha, stay tuned. We're gonna have you in the chat some one of these weeks as well.
Yeah, Samantha, of course.
Yeah. So Rhonda, at some of the LPRT events, I know we do juniors clinics, and the juniors seem to love you. What would you tell juniors watching right now who aspire to be a pro racquetball player?
Have fun, you guys. It's a game. It's supposed to be fun. Don't try to take it too seriously. I mean, enjoy yourself, put the work in, put in the time, do the little things right, and pay attention to your sleep, your diet, your execution. Don't just try to hit the ball as hard as you can, but try to hit it as hard as you can the right way. But at the end of the day, it's a game and it's meant to be fun. You got to learn from the losses, but you got to learn from the wins too. And you got to take your lumps while you're climbing the ladder. So just as long as you keep it in perspective that it is a game and it is meant to be fun, and every time you don't have to play, but you get to play. That's another thing I think that keeps me so youthful. That youthful exuberance I have about what I do is that I don't have to, but I get to. I love going to the gym. I love practicing. I love lifting weights. I love running. I love all the training that goes into trying to be better at my craft. So I don't have to, but I'm blessed because I get to, and I enjoy it because it's fun. So just keep that in mind. It's a game. It's supposed to be fun. And if it's not fun anymore, then don't do it. Find something else that makes you happy.
I think we have one more video to show of Rhonda having some fun on the court. Let's take a look.
Right side line.
Great hands from Rajsich in the backcourt through the legs.
So another example of those hands, and that's one of the things that really sets you apart is your ability to be creative as opposed to just play classic racquetball. You can do things that others can't. Is it something that comes from basketball? Is it just the way you play? Is it how you practice?
All of the above. I mean, I'm at my best when I'm instinctive, and I've been asked by racquetball people and non-racquetball people, like, am I trying to show off when I do the between the legs or the behind the back? And no, I'm not trying to be fancy at all. It's a reflex because it was the only option I saw to keep myself in the rally. And pretty sure you both have watched me long enough to know that I actually make more of those than I miss. In general, I'm probably about 80% lifetime. And that's because I'm not overthinking it. It's just a reflex. It's just a reaction. Like, if a bug's flying towards your face, you back up and swat at it. It's a reflex. You didn't have to think about it. That's what happens to me in there. That said, if I feel like I'm losing my touch, or I have, I went 2 for 6 last tournament instead of 5 for 6 last tournament, then yeah, I will actually practice those in situationally. And that's why I think I also have, some degree of confidence with them, because like I said, I'm not overthinking it. There's no pressure in just trying to stay in the rally. And it usually happens to work out that the shot's not that bad.
Well, Rhonda, we want to be respectful of your time, and we're nearing the hour mark, and say thank you so much for joining us this evening as we share a little bit about your experiences and knowledge. Really do thank you for joining us. TJ, I want to talk about next week, because we have another special guest coming. You want to kind of share who's coming on?
Yeah, so we're going to go south of the border next week, and we'll talk to talented dramatic player Jessica Perea. That should be fun. She's there. Oh, there we go. Yep, Jessica Perea next Thursday, same time, 9 p.m. Eastern.
So Jessica Perea coming up next Thursday, so be sure to come in at the same time. Rhonda, any final thoughts before we close?
I'm just looking forward to getting back out there. Thank you guys for what you're doing. Thank you guys for, doing this and kind of keeping the tour, present while we're all unable to get out there and put on the show for you. At least we can talk it out on this show until we are able to get back out there and do what we love again.
Well, thanks to everybody joining us this evening. Don't forget to come back next week with your questions as we talk to Jessica Perea.
Thank you.